Alrighty. Hey everyone, I'm NornQueenAlexis and welcome back to the channel and welcome back to this hilarious book that tells us all about the Space Marine vehicles as well as some of the other vehicles of 40k, including Sisters of Battle, the tank that literally violates the Geneva Convention. That was probably my favorite quote from the last video.
That's all it's built for.
This tank is strictly built to violate the Geneva Convention. So today, we are diving back into this book, and we are talking about the Land Raider.
Yeah.
Possibly the worst tank design in 40k.
Also some of the worst lore ever written in 40k, including the rewrites.
Yeah, even in Master of Mankind, this thing is kind of mediocre.
Yeah.
Like, it's probably the worst part in Master of Mankind is when they explain, when Arkan Land is explaining the Land's Raider.
Where it comes from, yeah. And why he just has a Pimp-mobile version of it.
Yeah. So we're gonna need that.
Oh wow, I totally forgot how we did that. Yeah, the holidays have been busy. So.
Yeah, we have been super busy with all of this, so I do apologize about this series not, like, being here at all times. And of course, somebody is trying to chainsaw their way through the door right now. So, when that Space Marine gets tired...
We're barricaded in. It's okay. We'll be fine.
Yeah.
The Emperor protects.
Alright, so, the Land Raider. If this thing doesn't scream 40k, I don't know what does.
It's very iconic.
It is, and it's basically just a boat. It's that boat that deploys on Normandy Beach. What is that called?
The Higgins boat.
Yeah, it's just a Higgins boat.
The LVTC, like Landing Vehicle Troop Carrier. So, yeah, it's got the Higgins boat ramp out the front. It's got the old Mark 1 through 5 landship design trench climbing treads that we all know and love at this point. It's got the sponsons on the side. You know.
At least this one has probably the best firepower out of any tank, with 4 las cannons.
It's got more guns, that's for sure.
But they're not in a position where it can shoot them.
Yeah, not at anything that matters.
And its turret-mounted gun can't even descend far enough to actually shoot anything in front of it. Even its sponson-mounted guns can't.
Yeah, it's
This is gonna be fun, isn't it?
This puppy's unique, and we're gonna get into everything wrong with it. Oh, he said the thing.
Series over, he said the thing.
But,
Boris, you finally did it. You became the Warhammer 40k.
Yeah.
Alright, so...
Alright. The first paragraph hurts the most. Without doubt, the preeminent battle tank of the 41st millennium is the Land Raider. Its STC design predates the Imperium by many thousands of years, but after the Age of Strife, its design was lost, until it was rediscovered by legendary techno-archaeologist Arkan Land. We should probably take a second and talk about Arkan Land.
The fact that he had a spider monkey on his shoulder that was...
A scorpion monkey, because...
Yeah, he thought the tail was actually a scorpion
It had
stinger.
to be a stinger, because why else would something need that?
Although Arkan Land did actually tell the Emperor to kill off... Crap, they're doing air raids on us now.
That is... What is with today?
I don't know. But anyway, Arkan Land told... the Emperor pretty much to kill off Angron because he was broken, and asked him why the Primarchs refer to him as a dad. And the Emperor actually responded with the story of Pinocchio.
Yeah.
Which I thought was super neat. That was a really good exposition from Aaron Densky-Bowden.
Pretty much everything we get about Arkan Land is from Master of Mankind, and the small little snippets we get him in. Oh, we got glare?
Yeah, we got a little bit of glare. It's not that big a deal. Let's see if I can get rid of that. No, I made it worse. Alright, whatever. Not a big deal.
Alright, we'll deal.
Because you guys will be able to hear us reading all of this. So, Arkan Land is a techno-archaeologist that's discovered many different things, including grav plates, which for some reason he put on his Land Raider.
And no one else got.
No one else's.
Yep.
They are really coming at us with that chainsword.
They're fighting real hard. Games use a fortified position. We'll be okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, he was it, and the whole story of how he found the Land Raider and later on the Land Speeder and the grav plate technology and all that, like, it's just in the Grand Library of Mars. So he didn't exactly travel anywhere to find any of this stuff. He just went diving into his home world.
Which is weird that techno-archaeologist Arkan Land wasn't the one to make the Primaris Space Marines. I feel like if he made them, people would be more accepting.
Of the grav tanks?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that, like there should have been more of a nod, especially in, like, the, was it the Dark Imperium book to Arkan Land instead of Belisarius Call, just being like, oh yeah, no, I just put
MacGuffin my way to getting them.
I MacGuffined and MacGyvered everything.
Even in his own book, Belisarius Call the Great Work, he does reference Arkan Land at least once, but it would be cool if he was just like, oh yeah, I used Arkan Land's design for the Lance Raider to make the grav tanks of today.
Yeah, the impulsors, or was it Repulsor?
Repulsor, Impulsor, Repulsor Executioner, Gladiator, and there's
soon to be the different versions of the Hammer Speeder.
Yep, and then there's the big one, the Arceus or something like that.
Oh, the Forge World one with the one that's clearly not from the Halo universe.
Yeah.
That's a hover Scorpion tank.
Yes, it is. And it's completely useless, which is the worst part. It doesn't have any good weapons on it.
Yeah, I remember, like, when Primaris came out, people wanted all Primaris armies, and Forge World's just like, here's your super heavy, and it's like, great, why is it not good?
Can you give us something with actually, like, a battle cannon on it?
Yeah.
Well, we gave you something with an accelerator autocannon as its main weapon. Yeah, but that's a super heavy tank.
But I can take Sicarans and just do that anyways. But yeah, so that's getting off track. But yeah, Arkan Land's, he's just known for the Land Raider, Land Speeder, the grav plates.
And being an advisor to the Emperor himself.
Yeah, and like the Emperor of Mankind, like, novel for the Horus Heresy pretty much is the only time he shows up in the lore in any serious way. And he's kind of this weird mix of Indiana Jones and a comedian.
Yeah.
Like, he's constantly, like, snapping jokes off. When he fights in the, redacted due to spoilers, he's got his own personal Land Raider that's all sorts of archaeotech. He's got his fighting spider monkey because he found the skeleton of a monkey and was like, clearly this is how this looked.
Yep.
It's a lot like those memes we see right now of, like, oh, this is a hippo skull. This is what it looks like in real life, and here's what it looks like when we hand it to a dinosaur, like, artist. And just this weird reptilian monstrosity. And yeah, like, never anticipate that Arkan Land shows up this early in the lore, because a lot of people thought that he was, like, a new invention.
Mm-hmm.
Around 7th, 8th edition, yeah.
Yeah, this is the first time that his name is really mentioned in the lore, except for, like, earlier editions where they nod at him. No, actually, he was in Rogue Trader.
Yeah, he was, like, all the way back there.
Yeah, so they really should have given it to him over. Okay, that's a whole nother tangent.
That's a whole nother tangent
get back
we
to
can
this.
get into. The Arkan Land got robbed, okay?
Yeah, Arkan Land should be Belisarius Call.
Yeah, maybe he is.
Actually, that would be a super
be
good
so good.
twist. Like, I would be, like, all over
The
that.
monkey is just under the robes still. The monkey is Call. The monkey grew up. Yes, Bobo. Bobo the Majos. All right, focus.
No, it's Mojo Jojo.
Oh, man, that's a reference and a half.
Okay, let's...
Okay.
History.
History. So, legend has it that the Land Raider, originally known as Land's Raider...
Wow,
yeah. Was rediscovered at the very dawn of the Imperium. It was during techno-archaeologist Arkan Land's great expedition into the Libraries Omnis on Mars.
Right, so literally he just took out his library card and was just like, what the hell is this? Hey guys, did you know this was here?
Yeah, it's like, hey, I don't know if y'all saw this, but there's stuff down here. The main aim of Land's expedition into the labyrinth catacombs of Mars was to find functioning STC databases. In this, he failed. But 2 other discoveries were made which revolutionized technical thinking for millennia to come. The first was a near-complete data slab image of STC information about a heavily armored battle tank. Ta-da.
This is not a battle tank.
We'll get there. The second unearthed information on rare anti-gravitic plates and theories on their uses, which eventually led to the construction of the first Land's Speeder. Land would later be killed on his second expedition, the victim of a psychic entity which destroyed his entire party. What secrets of the Dark Ages died with him remain a mystery.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that whole thing right there about him dying, who reported that? Everyone died.
Well, also, that is retconned as well now.
Yep. Also, we know that the land speeder was actually designed during the Crusade, and both sides had it, but they didn't have the later land speeder Tornado or land speeder Annihilator.
Yeah. 'Cause those were later
No,
developments.
it's Typhoon, Storm.
And then the standard one, right?
Yeah, which is the Destructor? No, because that's the Predator.
No, yeah.
I
that's
can't
the
remember what
Predator.
the other one is called.
I'm sure we'll stumble across it.
I should not have done that gesture on camera. Anyway.
So yeah, as the new Emperor's fleets took to the stars in the Great Crusade, it is thought that they carried with them the first combat-ready land raiders. At that time, all human forces were equipped with land raiders, and with this awesome war machine at their command, they conquered world after world, until the Emperor's Imperium of Man spanned the galaxy. Such was the demand for land raiders during the Great Crusade that an entire Forge world was founded just to manufacture them. Anvilus 9 supplied thousands upon thousands of vehicles to mankind's forces.
Okay.
Surprisingly, they kept that bit of the lore, the whole Anvilus 9 thing, and also that regular humans could take land raiders. Because if you play the Horus Heresy version
You
of 40K,
get land raiders with your squad army.
yeah, humans can just take land raiders, and they can take them in squadrons.
Oh, also a funny thing about Horus Heresy, squats are playable. Like, it's an upgrade from Solo Auxilia to be squats.
Yep.
They just get +1 toughness.
And are small.
Yeah, they are small.
They're small boys. But yeah, you can just pack humans into a land raider, which...
Honestly, it would work better for sisters anyway.
Yeah, and there's a whole other side of that, but if I remember this passage correctly, we'll get to that. Here we go. But the Great Crusade ended in disaster. Spoiler if you aren't aware. As the War Master Horus rebelled against the Emperor and bloody civil war engulfed the Imperium. Anvilus 9 was captured by renegade tech priests aligned with Horus. Other Forge worlds seceded from the Imperium rather than join the fighting, and overnight the Imperium's supply of land raiders was reduced to a trickle. It was a severe blow. The land raider was one of the few vehicles which could, when deployed in sufficient numbers, destroy enemy titans. With Horus's forces advancing on Terra itself and threatening ultimate victory, the Emperor decreed that all remaining land raiders still in loyal service should be recalled, and the Adeptus Astartes, his favored sons, his favored space marines, I don't know where sons came from, who stood at the forefront of Terra's defenses, be given exclusive use of the powerful tanks.
Now, hear me out. There's a tank that's better at Titan killing, easier to produce, and is just overall better for Titan hunting, the Shadow Sword, which came out just at the same time, if not...
Technically earlier?
Yeah, technically earlier than the Land Raider, and is better for Titan killing.
Yeah. At least they put out the caveat that it's like, hey, you need a lot of these to kill a Titan.
Yeah, because 4 las cannons is barely going to break its void shield.
Yeah, and I think that's a nice little cop-out of, alright, it can be used to kill a Titan, but you need, like, a lot of land raiders.
Now, funny thing, if you read the Sisters of Battle Omnibus, you see how the sisters deploy the Exorcist to kill Titans.
Yeah, and meanwhile, if you are in, what was it? The Adeptus Titanicus novel, like the first one. There's a scene where a warhound is running around and shooting up an armored column and stepping on and kicking land raiders around and just decimates them. And it's something like 10 or 12 land raiders are there at the time. So when they're saying, like, you need a sufficient number, we're talking, like, 30s and plus just to go
An
go hunting a
entire
Titan with these
chapter's
things.
worth of Land Raiders.
Yeah. So let's see. The Imperium was saved when the Emperor defeated Horus in single combat. Spoilers. But terribly wounded, he was placed in the Golden Throne, never to speak again. After his ascension, in quotation marks, no one dared to challenge the Emperor's decree. The Land Raider has remained a vehicle exclusively used by Space Marine chapters for the past 10,000 years.
Now, I'm just imagining that booty killer man just decides, you know what, that's dumb, Dad, you're stupid.
Like, an emergency order of just being like, all right, here's the deal. Like, this is the only thing big enough to carry, like, Space Marines and Terminators on the battlefield, and everyone's dying. Sure, only Space Marines get them for now. It's the fact that nobody after that is like,
I don't want to turn over my
I would
Land
like
Raider.
it back now.
Yeah.
Like-
I mean, the Emperor is like God, so...
Well, I mean, there's the Emperor being like God, and then there's the, like, clearly, eventually, they make changes to how they requisition these vehicles. Because we know that at one point, what, 4th edition?
Yeah.
Inquisitors could take them as dedicated transports.
Yep. And the Grey Knights.
And the Grey Knights who
But
are
they're Space Marines.
technically, yeah, it's that weird Grey Knight thing.
Yeah.
All right, service record. Yeah, I know, thrilling stuff here.
I know, isn't
Perhaps
it?
no other vehicle symbolizes the renown, loyalty, and long history of the Space Marine chapters more than the Land Raider. Rhino.
Yeah, the Rhino.
the Rhino, which is technically older in far greater number.
Yeah.
Let's see. The Land Raider, rumbling forwards, weapons blazing, disgorging power-armored Space Marines into the assault, is the definitive image people carry in their minds of the legendary Angels of Death.
No, drop pods.
Drop pods, yeah.
Yeah.
The Land Raider has earned the reputation through 10,000 years of battle, and it is well deserved. The Land Raider has served in every major Space Marine campaign since the defense of the Emperor's Palace. Famous incidents of Land Raiders in battle are thousandfold. Several of the more famous accounts include the Red Talon Land Raider Eagle's Claw, which was engaged against Traitor forces during the Battle of Amiens. In a solo rampage, the Eagle's Claw was responsible for the destruction of rebel supply bases and engaged retreating enemy units, causing such destruction to vital stockpiles that the enemy defenses quickly faltered when the Imperial Guard attacked. Another famous engagement was the attack on Heatsink 871 by the Land Raiders of the Iron Hands chapter. Commander Cian and his Land Raider Cestus led 5 vehicles against rebel forces and endured 132 hits in the process of capturing the Heatsinks. Roughly translated, Space Marines cool. Yay, Space Marines.
Yay, but if you listen to the rest of it, the Imperial Guard did all the work.
Yeah, it's almost constantly, it's like, yeah, no, these things just got shot a lot. But they survived. It's like, oh, well, okay, cool.
Wow, they must be great.
Yeah.
No, they're actually pretty bad.
Yeah, notice the first one, the Eagle's Claw story, is all about attacking supply bases and engaging retreating enemy units. So,
Which is something that we agreed that Space Marines would do.
yeah, you would be like a harrying, harassing force as opposed to like a mass attrition style warfare unit. But you're not talking about like hard reinforced targets. We're not talking about like the Land Raider assaulted a battalion of enemy Leman Russes and survived.
No, this thing's hitting retreating units who
Yeah.
are probably unaware,
Yeah,
catching them in
it's-
spearheads and just disabling them.
Yeah, just it is easy to kill a supply truck. No citation needed on that one. It is fairly simple to destroy an unarmored version of some sort of supply vehicle, and especially when you have las cannons, there's no reason to think that it's not just picking those fights.
Yeah, it's definitely picking fights that it's going to win, and win by killing 2 or more units a turn.
Yeah, because this thing is not sneaking up on anybody. But I digress.
No, this thing's loud as hell.
Yeah. Notable features. The Land Raider is arguably the most advanced tank still in service with Imperial forces.
What? No.
Well, here we go.
But no.
Primaris weren't dreamed of yet, Alexis.
No, but that's not even correct by the lore that we read in the other series.
I know. It discounts the Rhino, it discounts the Leman Russ,
Or the command tanks.
the command tanks with
Or
all
the
their...
aircrafts.
Well, the aircraft is not a tank, Alexis.
Oh wait,
Ooh.
this is going to get into the whole thing about the Land Raider being able to think like 6,000 times
Yes, it
faster than
is.
a human.
Yes, it is.
Oh my god, this is silly.
Every Land Raider contains a machine spirit.
Here it is.
In the Phobos pattern vehicle, this is an M32 Cyclops class alembic shielding, pseudosynaptic relays, and etheric feed coils, giving it a cognition speed of 30,000 CO a second, CO computer operations. This is extraordinarily high for a vehicle of the Land Raider size, comparable to what is to that used in a Warhound and even some Reaver
They
Titans.
literally contradict themselves.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go over this really quickly. So the shielding, that is a meaningless word that they just picked because it sounds cool.
Alembic is it's a piece of lab equipment. It's essentially a specially shaped glass apparatus for diluting solutions by boiling them. Concentrating via boiling.
Pseudosynaptic relays is just that it is jumping across 2 points to transfer information quicker.
It's
Wi-Fi.
It is like a synapse, which is what a standard circuit microtransistor is already.
And the feed coils?
Etheric feed coils.
They're just cords.
Yeah, that just means it's a cord with gas in it.
Yeah.
Which, cool.
Good job.
So it does all those things, and then it gets 30,000 CO a second.
Now we can talk about this too. The average person thinks about, I think
it was like
600
or something.
Yeah, it was 600 per second.
Yeah, 600 CO, and that's just computing operations. So that's just base level 1 + 1 = 2 type things. Mm-hmm. In a human, that's really hard to make an equivalence with. That's why all the research that we found said 600 was about what we were looking at. Because in order for you to take your hand and rotate it over, you are controlling muscles that go all the way up your arm. You are pushing and pulling. You are activating all sorts of different things just to make that action happen. And each individual impulse would be a CO. So you do, on average, 600 of those, and it's human physiology, so we don't know how accurate that is.
Now, I do want to talk about this really quickly. It says it has 30,000 CO per second. That's doing one task. Humans don't do one task. We do millions of them per second. Mm-hmm. Just looking out with our eyes, we're experiencing colors. We're experiencing gravitational flow from just the earth around us. We can sense that. We can sense bioelectric auras, which is things that people don't expect that humans can do. We can sense living things.
Yeah, we can sense living things, we can sense electricity, which is another...
We can sense the difference in gravity and pressure.
Yeah, 5 senses is woefully underestimating the ability for a human being to be a sensory perceptor and understanding where things are. Even your sense of acceleration, where you take a step forward and you're moving forward because all of these extra autonomic functions trigger, saying it's hey, we're not in the same point in space anymore.
Yeah, so saying the Land Raider can process 30,000 for doing a single task, that's really good. Humans have that beat.
Yeah, it's the classic artificial intelligence argument of
well, they think faster than us. Well, they actually can't. We cannot make a computer that can outthink and outperform a human brain.
Yeah, anyone with ADHD can operate a million little tasks in their head, bouncing back and forth between all sorts of different things with no real impact on their ability to function. You've opened up a computer browser and it's bugged out and tried to open 15 of the same tab and crashed the computer.
Yep.
Everyone's had that sort of experience, and we're not saying the Land Raider is Windows Vista or anything like that. But the fact that...
The Imperium is Windows Vista.
The Imperium is Windows Vista. But the M32 Cyclops class, machine spirit...
let's just call this what it is. It's an AI with a ghost in it.
Yeah, it's an AI. It's a ghost in a shell.
Yeah. So I want to explain what machine spirits are actually. In 40K, and I've actually had discussions about this with several of the authors, including Aaron Densky-Bowden. Mm-hmm. I actually asked him about this on Twitter, and he gave me a pretty good answer and everything. It's essentially a ghost, a human soul that is attached to the machine that can make it function. The ghost itself can actually, the soul, the spirit, can actually use functions that nobody knows about because it is one with the machine. Case in point, it would be like you operating a forklift versus you operating your hands. because they're a part of you. So these machine spirit can be something as simple as a piece of human brain that is the last remnants of the human in the computer itself, passing neurons through it to make a machine work. It could just be a non-thing that the people believe in. Humans in 40k do have the power of belief. A lot of people like to attune this to the Orks. The Orks just have it stronger. But humans can just pray literal hand-melting gauze weapons away and just stop feeling pain if they really want. But the machine spirit is interesting because it's an AI / actual spirit that takes over the vehicle momentarily or operates the vehicle in conjunction with the operator themselves. This gets explored a lot in Kingsblade, I think it's called.
The Knight novel?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where the knight actually reaches out and pulls the person into the machine spirit to protect it forever, and it becomes one with the machine. So I highly recommend that book, strictly for that point only. The rest of the book is kind of bad.
Yeah.
That book is kind of really bad. So, with that all said...
With that being said, yeah. And the fact that it's like, oh, it has the computing power of a Warhound or a Reaver, it's like, all right, so if that's accurate, this is way too much computing power for something with treads.
Yeah.
Like, a Warhound or a Reaver would have to worry about balance, that angular momentum, like all those things we were talking about, like a human does naturally. But the Land Raider doesn't need to do that.
Yeah, it's really silly.
Like, even the most, the Terminus Ultra Land Raider has the most weapons of any Land Raider. It canonically doesn't fire them all at the same time because it damages the power system. But even then, it's monitoring power distribution, environmentals for the interior for the crew, the treads, and then aiming and shooting weapons if it's allowed to by its controller. That's a woeful waste of computing and processing power. Bless you.
Sorry.
So yeah, moving on then. Primary power is provided by a Mars pattern adaptable thermic combustor reaction engine. Space magic.
So I did actually ask about what this all meant.
Yeah.
Because I could not figure it.
It's an internal
nuclear
combustion
reactor.
engine. Yeah, okay, yeah, sure.
It's literally a nuclear reactor that you put fuel into.
Sure.
Yeah, don't try to understand that one.
Nuclear furnace sort of
Yes.
thing. Okay. Man, someone went to the Russian School of Nuclear Engineering.
Don't you know you just put oil in it and it works?
Is that not how that works? Is that why my car's a piece of crap?
I'm not sure, but every other...
But I prayed over the transmission like I was told to.
But when I asked about this, and I read a whole bunch of stuff about the Land Raiders and all sorts of other vehicles in 40k, it always came back to their combustion engine is also a thermal nuclear generator. So it might be both at the same time, depending on its age. So the older Land Raiders didn't have the thermal combustion engines because the Space Marines didn't. Well, they had the thermal combustion engine. They didn't have the plasma generators or the nuclear power plants on their backs.
Yeah.
Yet. So there might have been some changes to the Land Raider over time with the newer lore. Which, if they did, that's actually really cool.
Yeah, would be
or it's
super
just a
fun to
retcon.
see. Or, yeah, retcon. It was just more likely of the two.
Yeah.
All right, situated at the rear of the vehicle, the power supply is cooled using nitro-ammonium and protected from malfunction and demonic possession by purity seals and Adeptus Mechanicus manufacturing sigils.
They put a good boy sticker on it, and demons don't like good boy stickers. It's like a banana sticker.
They also put a, inspected by Majos 110110. And a demon sees that as like, oh man, 110110.
I don't like that guy.
He knows his stuff. I can't possess this thing. The reactor provides power to all internal systems and to the main drive wheels through the vehicle's transmission. A Land Raider is capable of a top road speed of 55 kph.
Which translates to about...
It's like 30 miles an hour?
Yeah.
Like 27 or some odd?
Hang on, let me just double check.
Conversions are hard.
Well, I wrote it down, but I think I wrote it down wrong.
Okay.
I did write it down wrong.
But there's one interesting thing I want to bring up here, because there was
It's 34 miles per hour.
34. That's,
Yeah.
sprinting speed. So nitroammonium,
That's not sprinting speed.
you know what I meant. You heard what I meant, not what I said.
Yeah, that is like 12 miles over human speed limit.
Yeah.
So Astartes can keep up with it easy.
Easily.
Sororitas probably could too with their power armor.
Yeah. So nitroammonium. So nitroammonium, clearly not a thing. I don't feel like I have to say that, but I feel like I need to say it right now. So it's saying it's cooled using nitroammonium. Ammonia is not something you want to cool things with, because chemically it has a tendency to react with stuff. When you put, ammonium nitrate, which is, ammonium, nitrogen, and some oxygen.
It is a thing.
Ammonium nitrate? Yeah. Ammonium nitrate is an explosive.
So they cool their vehicle with explosions.
For those watching in the future, near the end of 2020, there was a massive explosion in Lebanon, which was attributed to a seized stock of ammonium nitrate that had been left in unsafe conditions, and it was a huge tragedy. But that's the level of explosive we're talking about. The ammonium nitrate has a pretty decent reaction factor.
They literally throw that into their engine to cool it.
It just doesn't make sense to me. So
obviously it does. The explosion has pressure. The pressure creates wind, and it cools the engine.
That's not how you cool things. Is this why you keep lagging on Cyberpunk?
Yes.
Have you been cooling your CPU with firecrackers?
Well, doesn't everybody?
No.
Well, it's how you appease the machine spirit. You literally just do constant explosions inside it.
I mean, hey, and in Asian cultures, it is very common to drive away evil spirits with loud noises. So you know what? Maybe that's how they keep the demonic possession away.
Look, I keep my demonic possession away by just running around my house screaming.
Okay. I'm sorry, I bought your soul last week. Can I return it? It's making me sad.
No.
But yeah,
I signed a non-disclosure agreement with you, and clearly it says no.
No returns allowed. All right. Okay. A famous feature of the Land Raider is the consecrated Aquila track link.
Oh yeah, they literally have treads
The
with the
Aquilas
Aquila
are
on it.
stamped onto it, yeah. Which, there's a part of me that's just so that means that as it rumbles across the battlefield, it's
It leaves
stamping the
little
Aquila every few feet. I feel does that bless the battlefield
So
if that
imagine
happens enough?
Imagine if this was Sisters and this was just prayer scroll that went by and purified the land as it drove. That would be the most metal Land Raider
That would be
ever.
so. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I'm totally down for prayers written on tank treads now.
Is that practical and useful? God, no.
No. But as it says, it's a spiritually symbolic edition.
Oh, remember, they're not spiritual though.
Yeah, not spiritual.
Yeah, they're atheists.
Was it the 13th track link represents the Emperor himself?
Yep, the Emperor's holy number is 13.
Yeah.
Have fun knowing that.
Yeah, 12 links for the 12 High Lords of the Imperium, and the 13th as the Emperor at their head. During Space Marine operations, a planet's surface is thereby stamped with the symbol of the Emperor. It's have you ever had that argument growing up as kids where it's well, I don't see your name on it?
Yeah.
Big E thought that one through. Literally, it's mine.
So wait, does that mean that when the traders did they change the 13th length?
I'd imagine you'd change all of them.
You would have to.
You'd have to.
Then it would have to represent the Chaos Gods, right? And would 11 be Malal?
Well, no, you'd have to keep 13. You'd have to keep 13 because of how tank treads work.
Yeah, the 13 numbers are Slanesh at 6, Nurgle at 7, Khorne at 8, Tzeentch at 9, God, somebody at 10. I cannot remember who's at 10. I think it's Nuffle is 10. 11 is Malal. 12 is another minor chaos god. And then 13 is the Emperor.
Yeah. But, yeah, just mechanically, you'd have to keep it at 13. So is it always the Emperors? Don't get me wrong. if someone out there wants to convert like a Nurgle Land Raider where it only has 7 treads, it's just this giant 7-sided like shape rolling across the battlefield, like I'm in.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome. Though granted, like if you're running Nurgle, why are you bringing a Land Raider? Why are you doing this to yourself? Your boys should be walking. They need the exercise. Regardless.
Well, not only do they need the exercise, they're practically invincible walking across the battlefield.
Yeah.
Also, in a Nurgle army, you're not bringing Death Guard.
You're bringing demon engines.
Yeah, you're bringing demon engines.
Yeah. All right.
And cultists. Cultists don't get Land Raiders.
All right. Each Land Raider also contains command and control equipment. Individual squad status screens allow a commander to observe his unit's biostats readouts.
That's pretty cool.
These are relayed through the vehicle's communications dish. There is also a holographic tactical display and direct interfaces to the Cyclops. That's the machine spirit. These provide the vehicle commander with access to all the battlefield information he needs and makes the Land Raider a command and control hub as well as a frontline fighting vehicle and squad transport.
Okay, gonna talk about this. The Land Raider's interior is basically that scene from Jurassic World where the Indominus Rex is attacking the people and they see the life signs and everything and people get X'd out
Yeah,
they die.
Yeah, what was it?
And you have freaking your machine spirit can just manifest itself like freaking Cortana.
It's the APC from Aliens.
Yeah,
like honestly, where it's like, oh yeah, we transport everything there. It's got guns, and the commander's just going to sit inside the whole time and watch everyone's life signs just go down.
Yay!
Yay! Positivity. Let's see. Other features of the Land Raider include atmospheric sampling equipment, rad counter, air filtration and purification unit, multispectral optic periscopes around the turret ring, gene-coded controls for security purposes, and slaved remote targeting systems to control the spawns and weapons.
So everything that every other vehicle in 40k has, except for the slave targeting systems. But essentially what that is, they did change that because they took out the word slave from 40k. Mm-hmm. Except for the Slaves of Darkness, because, yeah.
It still works for them, yeah.
Yeah. But they did take out slavery from the Imperium. Now they're just serfs, which are still slaves.
Yep.
They changed up Battlefleet Gothic's lore to be that they're all paid. They did that when they made the Battlefleet Gothic game, Rogue Trader,
Yeah.
The RPG series released by Fantasy Flight, which is fantastic, by the way. I highly recommend it.
Mm-hmm. If you can find it.
Yeah, or just get the PDFs off of Humble Bundle.
Humble Bundle's great.
Humble Bundle. I always say Humble Bundle.
Humble Bumble?
Yeah.
Is that a dating app where everyone's just real demure the whole time?
Now it is.
Anyways,
so what this does is the machine spirit itself is actually the one targeting the weapons, and that's where that 3,000% IQ kicks in. This tank has big brain.
is big brain plays.
Somebody make that a meme and just share it to me on Twitter. Just like your vehicle, chaos vehicles, imperial vehicles, and then the galaxy brain is the Land Raider.
The Land Raider Phobos.
Just like it.
It's
I love it.
like
okay.
The funny thing is, all of this, like pretty much everything other than like slaved remote targeting systems, that's all stuff that you can find
Standard.
on like essentially modern day military equipment, like gene coded. We don't use gene coding because the technology's... Hello? So as I was saying before I was so rudely interrupted, like gene code controls, like we have biometrics here in the real world.
Yeah, I have it literally on my phone to read my fingerprint.
Yeah, reading fingerprints, reading iris scans, like those sorts of security measures exist. It's not a far cry to think that one day we will eventually have like saliva or blood or tissue samples that a tank of some description can read and be like, oh yes, this is my authorized driver, or this guy's not on the list, I'm not going to start up. So that's not too far off. Multispectral optic periscopes. Yeah, multispectral. It can see in multiple spectrums. That's your infrared. So whenever anybody's sitting there in a sci-fi movie and all the vision goes green, it's like, congrats. That's night vision. That's a different spectrum of light you're seeing.
So
like that's amplification.
My stupid brain is just like it. They pop out and they're just like they look out and they just see a bunch of guardsmen, and then like activate the multispectrum optics thingamajig, and they activate it and just it tells them what they are. Oh, that person's asexual. That person's non-binary. Wow, that's so useful.
What is with that group of pansexuals in the back? Oh. Anyways, like air filtration, purification, yeah. Like most military units can be completely hermetically sealed. Rad counter, that's just a Geiger counter. That is a super simple machine. You can buy them online.
Does this murder me? Yes. Wow, such a good Geiger counter.
This is great. And atmospheric sampling equipment. What did we call it? There is usually a vehicle in every military unit that has like a chemical detection system. The NBC soldiers that I know always referred to it as a sniffer. Because it just sits there and smells the air, and it's just like, oh, something's gone bad. Like, sound the alarm. And it will literally, like, do a siren-style alarm anytime it detects, like, above a certain threshold of a certain particulate. So they had to always be careful with where it was, because if the exhaust from a vehicle got too close and the calibration was not right, it would freak out, because it's like, oh, the air is toxic. It's like, no, that's exhaust fumes, you idiot. So, yeah. All, like, fairly standard stuff.
And we have things that just target by themselves now.
Yeah, you can. We also have, like, remote-controlled weapon systems that you can control
drones
from within. Well, even just, like, it's called the Crow system. It's essentially a gun carriage that is set up with all sorts of hydraulics. And there's a screen that sits behind. So imagine we have two chairs. The gunner is in the back chair. They can just strap a screen onto the driver's headrest, and he has like a little, essentially, Xbox or a PlayStation controller, and he can control the weapon from inside the vehicle, never have to get out except to reload it. So, you know, these things do exist, so not a far cry. The fact that they're written about here, which this book is older than some people watching this video,
and a lot of people watching
it's fairly impressive.
Yeah.
You know.
All right, so construction.
Do they know how to make it?
God, no.
Spoilers, no. The Land Raiders' armor plating represents the very peak of the Adeptus Mechanicus knowledge, and similar techniques are utilized on other vehicles.
That's why it's flat-sided.
Yep. Such as the main armor plating on Titans.
God, let's hope not.
The STC design means locally available materials can be used to replace the advanced alloys, but all Space Marine chapter forges are capable of manufacturing the materials needed to produce Land Raiders.
Wow.
So every Space Marine chapter can make its own.
Just like the Dreadnought, except the Dreadnought they can't make because they don't know how to make it.
Well, it's like if every Space Marine chapter can make its own, and it doesn't matter where you make it, why was the production, like, centralized during the Great Crusade?
Not only...
If everyone can just scavenge what they need from whatever planet they're on and make one.
Yeah. So that's just kind of stupid.
That's just kind of silly. Like, either it can be made anywhere, and
or
so there's no reason for it to be rare, or it can't be made everywhere, and thus it needs to be
Unless
rare.
what they mean by this, without actually going into it too much,
Sure.
is that the Space Marines can make it, but the humans couldn't.
Yeah, I mean, that would be fair, I guess. But
So the human ones were made on the one world.
yeah.
And I guess if you have an entire planet dedicated to it, it's much easier to produce a bunch.
Well, it actually creates like a massive bottleneck as far as transportation goes, because you can make everything in one location, but then you have to centralize your logistics around that location.
Like, imagine a Space Marine fleet could just fly to an asteroid field, not into the asteroid field, but up to it.
Yeah.
Find the metal they need, take it, and
Take
just be
it,
like,
refine it.
and boom, they have everything they need.
Yeah, they're ready to go. And meanwhile, if one, like the Anvilus 9 issue is I have one planet here that makes all of my special vehicles.
I'm over here.
Yeah, the battlefield's over there.
Back.
Like, the requisition of getting everything here and then getting it all there is a huge issue. Now, if I decentralize my production on a galactic scale, yeah, Anvilus 9's over here, but let's say, like, Metallica is here. Mm-hmm. If Metallica can make Land Raiders...
Like over here.
Yeah. Like, if Metallica can make Land Raiders, it's much easier to get them from Metallica. It's a shorter distance.
Mars would be like over here.
I'm trying to remember the Adeptus Mechanicus map.
Agapina would be over here.
Oh, this is going to bother me. We're going to have to look that up later and see where Anvilus 9 actually is.
I don't think Agapina is actually a Forge World. I think I got that one wrong.
Agrippa?
No, Agapina.
Agapina?
Because that's the one from Battlefleet Gothic. That's the Gothic sector's Forge World, I believe.
All right. The inner armored layer and structural supports are constructed of adamantium. Above this is a titanium plasteel composite rolled plate. This is used to reinforce the locations on the vehicle that are most exposed to enemy fire, such as the assault ram, front glacis, outer hatch doors, and hull side. Next is a thermoplast fiber mesh, followed by the first of 2 ceramite layers. The first is designed for energy absorption and dissipation, an effective defense against high-energy laser weaponry. Yeah, it would be. The second is an ablative layer, the vehicle's first line of defense against extreme heat and melt weapons. The construction of this composite armor involves bonding the layers in huge high-pressure cookers, where extreme heat and pressure are applied to the various layers to form the complete whole. The front armor is 98 millimeters thick, but provides protection. That is a P, ladies and gentlemen.
Put provides.
The Pemperor protects.
The Pepper protects.
But provides protection equivalent to approximately 300 millimeters of conventional steel.
So this right here, this is what I used in all of my calculations to tell people just how weak ceramite actually is. Because we know that it's equivalent to 300 millimeters of conventional steel. We can actually bend conventional steel until it breaks and find its breaking point, which means we know the exact pressure it would take to crack that front piece of armor.
Yep. There's also fun calculations you can do. I say fun, but I'm also a nerd. Where you can figure out the armor penetration value of a standard, essentially steel core round.
Which we did.
I went and dug out some of my old manuals and found the equation where, like, velocity times the square root of, I believe it's the hardness of the projectile itself, which is a function of strength in newtons, over the resistance by the square root of the caliber in millimeters, can give you the effective penetration value of a round without taking into account things like
a sabot and things of that nature.
Sabot is pretty easy to take into account. Like a fin discarding sabot is pretty straightforward. But it's things like depleted uranium rounds.
Yeah.
Like you can't take into account that like nearly as well.
And another thing that I want to point out, because we know the front plate of this tank, which is
98.
This piece right here, strictly this piece, and we know. Oh, here's my other notes. Sweet. We actually needed that. We now know that this is how thick 98 millimeters is. We can actually take this and figure out every single armor piece on this vehicle. And some of it, the internal skeleton is actually really thick, but this right here is not as thick as the top. So they're already lying about the design.
Yeah.
Or at least they don't know the actual design. But since we know that this right here is the equivalent of 98 this is 98 millimeters. I think it said 98. Yeah, 98 millimeters. We know it's equivalent to 300 millimeters of conventional steel. We can then size this for 300 millimeters and find the exact numbers to figure out how good each and every single piece of armor actually is in terms of conventional steel, which means we know the strength of this, we know the melting point because these vehicles are capable of coming through the atmosphere, and you might say, Alexis, they're not dropped from the atmosphere, you're dumb. They actually are. Thunderhawk carriers bring these things down to the land itself, so we know that the entire exterior of this can survive 6,000 to 8,000 degrees, depending on the speed of the vehicle. And we know that it has a melting point equivalent to that of the lowest point of plasma, which is 9,000 degrees. Mm-hmm. So, or I could be wrong on the numbers for the plasma. I'm going based off of what I can remember. So if I'm off on the numbers, I do apologize. But because of all of that, we know the strength, the melting point, the speed of a projectile that can penetrate this. We know everything about the armor. And this applies to every single thing in 40K that uses armor. Mm-hmm. Knowing all of this, a standard round, well, I say standard round, but a
depleted uranium round.
No, not even a depleted uranium round. A 308, not a 308, a 50 cal sniper rifle can blow through a space marine.
Yes. Yeah,
and
we
it
did figure
will
that one out.
drop him
Yeah.
and kill him instantly.
Because we're talking 98 millimeters. Okay, so that's 9 centimeters worth. That's so 9 centimeters is roughly like 5 inches. Like, so this is a 5-inch thick piece of metal that we're talking about, and it has the equivalent of 300 millimeters of like rolled homogeneous steel. Okay, cool.
Oh, by the way, I factored in the toughest steel that humans can produce for this.
Yeah, like 300 millimeters of like conventional rolled steel still gets blown through by modern like armor penetrating munitions.
Yep.
Some of the numbers that I found while talking to some of my friends who used to be tankers and whatnot, they were like, "Oh yeah, no, like we've done tests, and there are armor piercing munitions the military uses today that
bust
get up
bunkers.
to like, yeah, they get up to like 500 like millimeters of penetration on rolled homogeneous steel." And yeah, granted, that's like given ideal conditions of you hit it dead on at like a a perpendicular angle to the surface, so that you're getting the maximum penetration. It's
And there's a
540
lot of
millimeters.
surface here.
There's a lot of flat surfaces on these things. Yeah, you could defeat one of these with like standard armor piercing munitions that are available today.
Now, but before we get into that,
Before we get into all that mess,
let's finish this
yeah.
so we can...
All right,
'cause
the
this thing
Land
is-
Enigma.
Oh
I think
my
that's where
God.
we are. Yeah, the Land Enigma. Disciples of venerated techno-archaeologist Arkan Land.
Who is not Belisarius Call for some reason.
Yep. Discoverer of Land's Raider and Land's Speeder STC.
But they said in an earlier paragraph that
Why
he
is that
didn't...
so hard to say?
He didn't discover the speeder. He discovered the grab plates.
He discovered the grav plates and made the speeder, so, moving on.
Which we also know is not true, because if you read the book Ravnor, which predates this one, they had hover technology prior to this,
Yeah.
meaning that they had it prior to Arkan Land being written. Even though he was written all the way back in Rogue Trader, he didn't discover the STCs until he came into First Edition. So Ravnor in First Edition, Ravnor came out later,
Yeah.
which retconned it technically by.
So are you telling
date.
me that 30 years and over 60 individual authors have made inconsistent lore?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yes. Very, very, very inconsistent lore.
And, are you telling me that also the mythos of 40K strictly means that everything is true from a certain point of view?
Yes.
A certain point of view?
Yes.
Okay. All right, moving on.
God, there's such a wicked glare on this. I am so sorry.
Yeah. Let's see.
Nope, I tried.
Okay, so disciples of Arkan Land, they formed their own subcults within the Adeptus Mechanicus called Landites or Landists. They continue their founders' work and research the many potential STC variants of Land's discoveries. Their work has led to many innovations, such as the Prometheus and Helios Land Raider variants, the inner circle of the Landist cult, which are rumored to have... Wait, hold on. Which contains some very senior Adeptus Mechanicus artisans, are rumored to have evidence of a new vehicle, but to be keeping their discovery a secret. The cult's esoteric research has revealed that once, during the Great Crusade, there was an armored vehicle which was heavier than the Predator, but lighter than the heavy assault.
Oh, they're talking about the Sakaran.
Yeah, lighter than the heavy assault transport of the Land Raider. Others within the Adeptus Mechanicus heavily dispute this.
So that all got retconned.
And in Millennium 39, several members of the Landist cult were arrested for techno-heresy and condemned to arco-flagellation for their crimes. Ever since, the Landists have been highly secretive about their work. They believe that within the very blueprints of the Land Raider exist system compatibilities and redundancies down to a microscopic level that could help reconstruct the missing tank. Many tech priest disciples of Land have become obsessed with this work, but it seems ultimate success has continually eluded them, and the mythical missing tank remains an enigma to this day.
So yeah, that's the Cerberus, the one I just mentioned, to its name I can't remember now.
Sakaran.
The Sakaran and the what's the Sakaran backwards that has the mortars on it?
Oh.
God, I can't remember what it's called right now, but those three tanks
I
were
clearly
the
need
things
to
that
play
they
more
were.
Heresy.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah. Yeah, so...
Okay, that's getting really annoying. I'm just going to pause this for them. Alright, so, whoops, as I punch the camera, don't mind me. Alright, let's get back to it.
Okay.
Where were we?
We had just finished reading everything, and we were moving on to the tech specs.
Okay, so this one's actually pretty easy. The Land Raider is built very poorly. To say very poorly is, yeah. Oh, also I found all my notes about the cognitive abilities.
Oh, there we go.
Tank.
Is there anything that we need to, like, circle back on?
Let's see, it can go into bits of 0.00375 megabytes. Is a computer of today. So the Land Raider is just about at the same speed as a computer of today.
Okay.
In fact, this might be smarter.
Or at least faster.
Yeah.
Something. Anyways.
Let's see. Pseudosynaptic means it's not real. The feed coils are just aesthetics.
Yep.
That's pretty much it.
Just pretty. All right.
So, going over the Land Raider, we have it. This one's origin is Mars, apparently, which doesn't make any sense since Mars wasn't listed as one of the worlds that made it.
Yeah, but it is the truest world of origin because that's where the STC was found.
That is where its STDs were found. Anyway, so this one has a pattern. It has a driver and commander. Its power plant is located in the back of the vehicle itself, in perfect range for it to just get blown right through. And
yet armor 14 all around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Despite
the external engine.
Yeah, that hangs off of it.
Yeah.
All right, so getting into some of the specs, this thing is 72 tons, so it's
a big boy.
It's chunky. It's not driving down a road.
Not quickly.
No, it's gonna rip apart every single road and stamp the Emperor's seal as it goes.
I mean,
Emperor's Road now.
You know what I just realized?
What?
So it said that like it has the names of the High Lords of Terra on the other 12 tracks. When a High Lord of Terra gets replaced,
it states that it has one for each of the High Lords of Terra.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And there's 12 High Lords of Terra.
There's actually 13 now since the binary succession.
Well.
Yeah, since the binary succession, the Adeptus Titanicus separated from the Mechanicus themselves, and then created their own one, and they needed their own representation on the High Lords. And we know that one of the High Lords is a custodian.
Yeah. But no, what I was thinking is, do they change the names every time a High Lord gets swapped out?
Well, it's a
title thing?
It's a representation of that High Lord.
Okay.
I don't think it's the actual name, because if it's the actual name, then holy crap, that's stupid. All right, so
moving on.
Its length is 10.3 meters, which is equivalent to 33.8 feet, so 34 feet, just about.
Yep.
Its width is 6.1 meters, or 20 feet. This thing is a massive target.
It's a box.
Its height is 4.11 meters, or 13.5 feet. This thing is only slightly bigger than
Oh, is it? Yeah, the Abrams is 11 feet tall.
Yeah.
So, it's actually fairly low to the ground, which is...
Not represented by its model.
Not represented by the model.
Yeah, this thing should be shrunk down just a little bit.
However, what is it? Compared to the Rhino, the Rhino is 11 feet tall, so this has 3 feet on it?
Yeah, it's 3 feet bigger than the Rhino. It's also 1 foot bigger than the Chimera with the full turret and everything. So the Chimera's main weakness is that it was so tall.
Yeah.
But if you shortened it, which you could, the Chimera is like the perfect vehicle in 40K. The Rhino was a close second and is actually slightly better because of its lower height.
Yeah.
And the fact that the Rhino is smaller than the Chimera in every respect. Here's the notes to prove that. And it has the same speeds. But aside from that, the Land Raider is not as nimble. This thing is, it goes 34 miles per hour, so it's 10 miles per hour slower than the Rhino.
Yep.
So the Rhinos now have to slow down to keep up with this, and this has to slow down to keep up with a Dreadnought if they decide to deploy one for some stupid reason. Its ground clearance is 4.5 meters, or 1.5 feet, just about 1.5 feet. Its ground speed is 55 kph, which is equivalent to 34 miles per hour. off-road, this thing goes 48 kph, so that huge power source in the back of it is practically useless. And that's 30 miles per hour. Mm-hmm. The average person can almost run up on this thing.
Yeah.
If this thing's going full tilt through off-road. Mm-hmm. A Space Marine would have no trouble keeping up with this, since we know now that Space Marines can run at 55 miles per hour.
Yep.
With a top sprint speed of almost 70.
Yep.
That actually comes from the appendix, whatever.
Appendices?
Yeah, it's the Space Marine chapter 1. They actually go into how fast a Space Marine runs. And they say that it keeps up with a very fast vehicle.
Yeah.
And because of that, we determined, I don't have the papers in front of me, so I do apologize, but we determined the Space Marine speed at full tilt to be 70, and at running speed, like actual running speed, not jogging speed, but running, there is a difference between sprinting, running, jogging, walking, and then marching.
Yep.
And rough sacking, of course. Mm-hmm. Those are all different speeds, but the Space Marine's top speed is 70. Its average speed is about 35 miles per hour.
Yep.
So this thing is in line with that. Space Marines would be able to keep right up with this thing. Mm-hmm. If not outpace it. Its lance cannons have infinite ammo, which is really good. Like, that's probably the best thing about this thing, is its 4 lance cannons have infinite ammo. It has 2,600 rounds for the heavy bolter, so that's, 4 spurts at best?
I mean, yeah, it's because it's twin-linked heavy bolter, so it goes through twice as fast.
Yep.
And then we have the superstructure and hull measurements. Now, in this one, it says 95 millimeters, whereas in the paragraphs it says 98. So...
Yeah, contradicting points is fun.
Yeah, contradicting points are fun.
So again, this means absolutely nothing.
Nothing. Now, there's one thing I want to point out, just because this is something that I've always found was kind of interesting.
The fact that if you stand in front of a Land Raider, it can't shoot you?
Well, there's that, but we'll get into that here in a second when we look at the other patterns. But, so, whenever you're looking at the different marks of Land Raiders, mm-hmm. It's always important to remember that there's a reason why Chaos doesn't get other versions of Land Raiders. They all come after the Heresy.
Yep.
So all the Chaos Land Raiders are technically the Phobos.
Which, Chaos has never actually taken a land speeder afterwards, or drop pod.
You know what? We're not going to worry about that
Or
part.
another Land Raider, or raided a planet that makes them. Doesn't have a different pattern. Doesn't need to follow STCs.
A Renegade chapter since then has never brought any of the
never
new
slapped
equipment.
a battle cannon on top of it because they don't have to follow the strict doctrines of Mars.
Regardless.
You could have all of these cool things in a Heretic army GW. Make it happen.
Give me demonic possession on a Lehman Russ. I'm down. But anyways, just the Phobos is the standard Land Raider, and there's always those weird naming conventions when it comes to Land Raiders, where some are named after Greek ideas, others are named after early Christian warriors like the Crusader, and there's one that's named after an old sun god, and there's all sorts of weird naming conventions.
There's also Ares, the god of war.
The Ares one, the Helios, what is it, the Proteus, the Prometheus, the Spartan, and just so on and so forth. But I believe
GW's naming conventions.
GW does some things.
So, as we can see right on the back, this is its exposed exhaust system, which also means the engine is right here.
It is a giant metal box.
That's an intake to the engine, exposed on the back. So that is perfect for a pipe bomb or a Molotov to take out this entire tank. Although, probably a Molotov wouldn't do anything since this thing cools its engines with explosions.
Yeah. Anyways.
It also has all of this up here, which
all
is
the extra venting.
Super exposed positioning up on top of the Land Raider itself.
So many hatches up on top as well.
There's
just extra cupolas.
It's such a bad tank design. And from this, we can actually show you that the Land Raider can't actually shoot in front of it because
it cannot traverse close enough to fire something that's ahead of it. Which, small secondary gun there, but
can't aim down.
Can't really aim down all that far. You're very high off the ground with it to begin with.
And even if you put the Storm Bolter here, you're going to have trouble shooting in front of you.
Yeah. And oh, by the way, that's where we put the ramp for everyone to get out. The backup doors, however, are there.
In front of guns.
Are in front of your main gun.
There is this one.
Yes, so the Mark IIB, which canonically is like the oldest version, which I found kind of funny because it's the Mark IIB is the oldest of the Phobos Land Raiders.
Yeah.
So you just skipped all the Mark 1s and Mark IIA.
Now this one has something cool. The guns hang out further, so it can actually shoot at a reasonable distance in front of it. I calculated it was like 150 meters out.
Yeah, something like that.
So if you run up on this tank, you can actually just pipe bomb the doors and destroy it.
Yeah, this is like the Mark II's got the whole armored sponson, which is very reminiscent of the old land ships.
And that is what the Land Raider is based off of.
Yeah, that's what the Land Raider is based off of. This gets around the nasty little, I can just hit exposed wiring and shut this thing down.
Yep.
And then you have to open a door to the interior to then try and fix the weapon that's now disabled on the outside. This also has that rear-facing door so that you can actually disembark troops in a safe position.
Yeah, you can get behind the damn thing and get into cover.
Yeah.
So this Land Raider is the better of the Land Raiders. It's still getting like a paltry 2 out of 10.
Even though it's the oldest one.
Yeah, it's the best. This one's designed with the extra armor is kind of cool.
With the spaced armor.
As it said before, the extra armor is practically pointless since it doesn't cover up like the weapons themselves. It doesn't cover up the hatches. It still has all the problems of the big one. And it also doesn't cover up this. This perfect spot that if a mortar hits, destroys this entire tank. Now, you might be saying, Alexis, that's very unlikely, and you're correct. But if you're in an urban environment and you just decide to drop a freaking Molotov off of a building into this thing, chances are they would never see you since this thing has no guns that can aim up aside from this one, which would have to rotate the entire tank, look up at you to fire at you. Or the Space Marine's next.
The Space Marine has to come out with a bolt pistol and be shooting out of the top hatch.
Yep.
That's the type of thing you're fighting against. And spaced armor versus reinforced armor, there is an actual mechanical difference in the real world as opposed to just a fun name difference. If you're reinforcing a plate of armor, you are adding just armor to it. Spaced armor is actually engineered to be what it seems like. It's spaced, not spaced age, but there's actual physical distancing in between armor plates. So that, Alexis, pen please. And then put your hands out like that. Alright, so we have a round coming in and hitting here.
Pew!
As soon as it breaches the first piece of armor, there's space inside. If this round has some sort of explosive warhead on it...
Gee, what do you think has explosive warheads in 40k?
RPGs. Bolters.
Yes.
An orc thing that he believes.
That chainsaw is back. We waited 40 minutes.
Oh, man.
Okay.
He really wants to do that door. So spaced armor is really good at defeating contact explosive munitions because then it detonates and the force of the explosion fills up the space between the armor plates.
And the other armor still stands.
The other armor still stands. Versus solid shot projectiles, reinforced armor is better because then you're presenting one large piece that it has to punch through. Spaced armor doesn't really do anything to defeat a standard armor-piercing projectile. It's mainly there for explosives or shape charges.
Now, the other big thing about this tank is that this front plate is practically flat. It is not even up at it's up at maybe a 45-degree angle. It looks more like... It almost looks like a 40-degree angle.
Yeah. I mean, maybe a little bit more than 45, but even then,
Yeah.
And we'll get to that here in a second why it's sterile, because I believe we have the cross-section. Yep, we have the cross-section.
So this goes right into the crew compartment, right into where they do all of their important work and everything, and flies all the way back to the engine.
Yep.
There are walls in between these, that is true. Now, Sterling, if you had to take out a bunker, what kind of round would you use?
Armor piercing. More than likely, I would just bomb it, if I'm being totally honest. But if I have to, if I have to fire on one, and I can't hit the crew directly, I'm using some sort of, explosive warhead, probably something similar to, a tow missile at this point.
Okay. So, as we see in the reinforced armor, and you can see it here, here, and here. Nothing actually protects the front.
No, nothing does.
So,
it's all flat.
Do you think you can get through 200 millimeters of conventional steel?
Yeah, pretty solidly. Like, a lot of stuff has about that level of, like, penetration. And honestly, it's a vehicle. I don't have to kill it, I have to disable it. You know, and that's practically, like, that's a practical matter of just hitting the engine. Which,
Also, my other favorite part is the commander has to sit up here
yeah,
to control the entire vehicle.
Yeah, there's a lot of, like weird...
Oh, also, here's the hunter-killer missile, which I think is really cool that it's stored inside.
That they... Well, we actually... so in my old heavy weapons company, we actually had racks for missile tubes for our ITAS system. It's a fly-by-wire missile that you can pack up. And it's technically man-portable, but it's really miserable if you have to move it. And we put those on Humvees all the time. And, like, yeah, you have one round loaded in the launcher, and the rest are just stored in the back. Like, Humvees actually come with a little door that's really neat, because you can open the little tiny door and reach into the cargo compartment without leaving the vehicle itself.
Yeah, but leaving the vehicle to repair your weapon is what you have to do.
Yeah, that's...
Stupid?
Yeah, that's stupid. For all the reasons we've said.
Now, let me just ask, if you got a good hit on here...
Okay.
This thing's 20 feet wide. Let's assume these would be like 5 feet apiece, so it's a 10-foot ramp across, which is average for Space Marines running down.
Sure, yeah.
One by one, and I think Terminators stand 8 feet wide. So, because that's what this thing's mostly transporting. So you have a 10-foot door coming towards you in a tank.
Yeah.
Could you hit that even if it was moving 30 miles per hour?
If it's moving 30, yeah. Like, that's a decently sized target. Like, because it's, 10 by the height of a Space Marine? So it's essentially 3 meters by 2 meters. Like, that's a pretty hittable target, yeah, to be quite honest.
Okay.
Especially if you're using some sort of fly-by-wire system or you have a laser designator.
What would happen to the interior of this vehicle if you shot it and got a direct hit?
Oh, shrapnel. Like, 100% shrapnel.
So you're telling me that 200 millimeter thick wall would just become a wall of death?
Yeah, either that or my munition's going to penetrate and that, like, brings its own wall of death with it. And there's nowhere to go when you're inside a transport like this. And here's the thing. I don't have to hit this to defeat this vehicle. I have to hit the things inside after the ramp drops.
Which is easy.
Yeah, which is easy. And I also know that I'm more than likely not getting shot if I'm directly in front of it, unless it's the secondary weapon system, so I just don't let myself be known. You know, if I'm in a fortified structure, this thing has to present its sides to me, which means I don't get to shoot at the crew, but the crew's also likely not getting out. And if it's one of the ones with all the exposed cabling and everything, I can more easily defeat the weapon system that has.
Or you could defeat the exposed tracks.
Or, yeah, the partially exposed tracks, fire at those. We have these handy-dandy struts marked out to see where all the actual gears and wheels are that propel the track system. Yeah, I mean, there's one thing about this vehicle that still boggles me. It's an auto-taro system. There's, like, legitimately a system that's just labeled as auto-taro reader.
What?
Because the Imperial Tarot, you know.
Yeah, so this thing just predicts...
It just predicts the future with, you know...
tarot cards.
An app.
Got it.
An app for tarot cards. Yeah, there's a lot of just, like... I don't know, it's... The problem that we run into with the Japanese Daihatsu, which is the predecessor for the Higgins boat, which has this whole assault ramp, is... okay, this thing is driving somewhere and people want to get out of it. The thing they're going towards, if you're in an armored vehicle, you're probably going towards something that has people with guns. And the ramp drops. Now, the reason you use the ramps on assault boats like the Higgins boat is because otherwise your option is to go out the sides and then you're in water and then you have to walk or swim or clamber the rest of the length of the vehicle to get to the beach. Which means you're in the water for longer, which means you're slower, which means that you're a better target. So that's what the ramp was initially designed for, was like, the Higgins was designed in mind that it was going to beach itself, drop the ramp. Its propeller was actually recessed into the body so that it could reverse itself back out, even if it was sitting flat on sand, as long as there was like water around it. And it would get away. But it's literally just there to drop off, turn around, go. Like Higgins boats were predominantly made out of wood. Like these things are not stopping machine gun fire. The Land Raider took this concept of, all right, I really want to drop these troops off really, really fast, and they put it on a slow vehicle with exposed weaponry that is going to draw a ton of fire because it's a nice big target.
And flat.
And flat. So even if I can't penetrate the armor, if I can just defeat the weapon system, then literally my job just becomes, all right, let's just keep moving the heavy gun around until they open that front door, and then you fire into the interior of the vehicle.
Yeah.
Like, any vehicle where there's an easy way to get into it, that's a liability. Like, especially if, like, a human-sized individual, because remember, these are skilled for Marines, and Marine certainly isn't ducking its head to get out of here, so we can assume this is about 2 meters. If I am just like a normal human, I am perfectly safe next to the front of this vehicle. Now, I say perfectly safe, reminding folks that, you know, these doors are nice, big, metal, and actuated. So if the thing drops, you know, I don't want to be where the thing's going to drop. But there's a decent chance that somebody can just be out in front of this vehicle with some sort of shaped charge or anti-tank mine and trade their life for the lives of everyone inside that vehicle.
So assuming this is 6 foot. Actually, let's assume this is...
Like 7 something, yeah.
Yeah. So we have this coming out. That means that only at about here would you be able to be shot by the turret-mounted Stormbolter.
Yep.
Now, that's not factoring in the heavy bolter, which has a slight depression, so we can actually take that and go with its depression.
Yep.
Which is what all millennials do. And it possibly could shoot in front of it. But this thing is actually stationed on only one side, which means that there's a whole side of this tank that you can stand in front of that this gun can't shoot you.
Yeah, it just can't get to you. And even then, we're not even taking into account that smart infantryman just goes prone.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, people like to assume that, like, you're a soldier, you're a soldier and you're brave and you're going to stand and fight. It's like, nah. I am a soldier who has been trained that my life is valuable because I can trade it.
But don't you know that if you go prone in front of the tank will just run you over, or its weapon system would target you immediately? There's never once an instance of Space Marines getting ambushed. Except for all those times they get ambushed.
All the times they get ambushed. I retort with Imperial Fist.
Imperial Fist have been ambushed like 1,000,000 times. Dark Angels have been ambushed 1,000,000 times.
Salamanders get ambushed in a bunch of heresy novels. There's the whole Istvan drop site massacre where Space Marines are ambushing other Space Marines.
Yep.
Like, an ambush is just a basic concept of warfare.
And to say that their auspexes would be able to pick out targets, you are correct. They would be able to pick out moving targets and targets that have a life around the vehicle itself, and a good auspex scan could actually find targets.
Sure.
The problem is what happens when it finds too many targets.
Yeah, and that's a lot of people who like to make these arguments are like, oh, well, on a battlefield, like, a lone infantryman has no chance against a tank. Oh, I'm not arguing that a lone infantryman has any chance in hell. Like, lone infantry guy, even a lone operator, somebody who's like a tier 1 asset, on their own, does not stand a chance.
No,
and
but a crew does.
Yeah, a crew, a team, a squad, a platoon, that, like, you never operate alone. And if you're operating alone, things have gone terribly wrong, and your mission is not the same as it was when you started.
No, your mission is to get out.
Like, yeah, like, if you're down to 30%, like, capacity in an airborne unit, like, U.S. Army doctrine says, okay, you can still be able to complete your mission. Like, with 70% casualties. Technically, you should still be able to do your assigned job.
America.
But, yeah, say that we hit that crucial 29% of our assets are left. Okay, it is time for us to sit down and have a long, hard think about
Lard hard.
Lard hard dink. English is hard right now. But once you hit that like ratio of we should not be in this fight anymore, everyone knows it's like, okay, it's time to make a tactical withdrawal, because in the U.S. Army you don't retreat. You always withdraw tactically.
Yeah, we never retreat.
Yeah, you do fighting withdrawals, you find some other way of engaging the enemy. And a lot of that just involves being alive at the end of the day.
Yep. Now, of course, the Space Marines inside would be able to fight off anything in front of it.
Yeah.
For the most part, except for another tank.
Or other Space Marines.
Yeah, or other Space Marines, something that's going to tie them up.
Or,
suppressing fire.
Just enough Ripper swarms.
Yeah.
There's a lot of ways to easily defeat a tank where all of its main ordnances are sponsons on the side, and it has a ramp on the front. Like, a reason a tank is a useful military implement and tool is because all of its weaknesses are protected and reinforced.
Now, here's my biggest weakness of this tank.
Okay.
A Thunderhawk has to come in and put it down.
Sure.
Okay?
Yep.
That means that they have Thunderhawks.
Yep. Thunderhawk, macro hauler.
Okay.
Or they're driving it off the assembly line.
That means that a Thunderhawk had to come in and land,
yes.
drop this thing off in a safe zone. So this thing now has to travel all the way to the combat zone.
Yeah. And
don't they have something that can make it faster, like a pod from space that can get them to their target instantly?
Something that just drops?
Now, you could say, well, anti-air fire can actually take out drop pods, and it can.
Sure.
Drop pods are designed to fight against it, but they're not designed to just be immune to it.
It can also just take out a Thunderhawk, though, if we're going to use that argument.
But at the same time, I feel like Space Marines don't have... Like, their main attack method is direct deployment. Mm-hmm. And I feel like a Thunderhawk, which is more heavily designed than this thing, heavily armored than this thing, would be a more tactical asset to just drop this thing on the front line and just take off.
Yeah, there's a whole argument to be made as to, like, where would, like, a heavy tank/transport be useful? And we're going to get on actual lead, because someone will come up with a scenario. But exceptions don't prove rules.
Now, here's the thing, and this is going to sound weird, but this thing is not a frontline tank in any way, shape, or form.
No.
And even if you play the Dawn of War games, especially Dawn of War 2, you use this thing as a mobile bunker. You use this thing as a base that you can retreat to, have some safety, re-get your numbers, reassess the situation, and then go back out.
Yeah.
This thing is a support vehicle, at best.
Yeah, I feel like this is one of those, like, yeah, you could build a formation around this. You could build a strategy around using Land Raiders. Of course. You can build a strategy around using anything. Is it ever going to be my first pick? No. Because if I want transports, I want transports that are going to be faster. I don't care if you can...
better.
I don't care if you can take a better hit than a Rhino can. Like...
I'd rather you not get hit.
I get two Rhinos for the tonnage of one Land Raider. So I can deploy that 10-man squad into 2 5-man teams.
Not even that. The same Thunderhawk transport that drops one of these can drop 2 Rhino variants.
Yeah.
Which means you can actually drop 20 Marines.
Yep.
In a faster vehicle.
Yeah.
Or you can drop 2 Razorbacks, and you have the firepower of this thing and the speed of the Rhino.
Yep, and you're smaller, so less of a target. Like, there's lots of other options that make the Land Raider not appealing, because
the Storm Raven.
Because this is a universe where the las cannon exists as evidence of the Land Raider itself. So, it has 2 layers of, like, thermoconductive fiber mesh. All right, awesome, cool. Armor that is designed for ablation. Like, ablation means that it is being heated to the point where it turns into a gas, and that gas interrupts extra heat being added because gas is a better insulator than solid matter is. Cool. By the sheer nature of a blade of armor, eventually it's all gone. It just keeps getting shot. And you can only diffuse so much heat and energy before something gives. So the Land Raider carries 4 las cannons in one, 30 meter by 20 meter, like, section?
Yep.
If I have 4 las cannon heavy weapon teams, I can set those up across an entire front.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can put them in fortified positions with similar, like, ablative situations.
And before anybody points out that, no, you can't, well, actually, no, you can't, you can drop the 2 Rhinos or 2 Razorbacks filled with 2 Devastator squads.
Yeah, and then I'm
Get
at,
to the
like,
point
what?
faster, get a vehicle that can support that unit, and the 4 las cannons, so you'd have 8 las cannons on top of this thing.
Yeah. Like,
Even in 40K, the tabletop game, the Land Raider has always been and always will be garbage.
yep.
Even in Horus Heresy, it's garbage.
Yeah, in Horus Heresy, the only thing that makes it good is the fact it can take...
Armored Ceramite.
Armored Ceramite to ignore the Melta rule.
And then if your opponent is smart, they're taking 4 las cannons anyway to kill
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, and even then, you just take other vehicles besides the Land Raider. Like, you take the Spartan, which is just a bigger, badder version with more guns.
Yep.
Like, it just gets outclassed by its own descendants. So, yeah.
Is there anything else to the Land Raider that we need to talk about? Patterns, whatever.
Yeah, we get the new versions, which we can talk about just, like, the differences in use.
So we get the Land Raider, the basic one.
Land Raider
Then we get the
Phobos.
Crusader. The Crusader is actually cool because this one was made by the Black Templar first,
Yeah.
and was an exclusive model for them for quite some time, up until GW decided they wanted to sell it. And then they decided everybody gets it. You take out the las cannons for the long-range suppression, which we already said that this thing would be a bunker, and
Yep.
replace it with bolt guns that would eat through its ammunition like
the-
stupid
The
fast.
Hurricane bolt guns. Like,
Which the main armament is 4,000 rounds. You have 6 bolters firing.
well, you have 12, remember? It's 6 on each side.
Oh, jeez.
So you just rip through that so quickly.
So that's 3 shots per, because a bolter can't actually go automatic.
Yeah.
It just goes burst.
Yes, you can go do the 3-round burst or semi-auto. So even if you're doing semi-auto, you have 4,000 rounds. So 4,000 divided by 6. You have less than 1,000 trigger pulls.
Yeah, which means that this thing is
It very
bad.
quickly runs out of ammunition.
Also, this thing is an anti-infantry, and if infantry are running up to this thing, it has all the weaknesses of the Land Raider.
Yeah, is for the change of, oh yes, volume of suppressive fire.
And then you have 2,000 rounds for an assault cannon, which it would eat through that in like less than 5 seconds.
A double-barreled Gatling assault cannon.
Yep.
So,
And why
yes.
isn't the multi-melta on the one that is anti-tank? I always question that.
Okay, that's something that's always bothered me about the Crusader too. Because I felt like the Crusader, when they designed it, they're like, yeah, we want like a close-range fighting tank. It's like, okay, yeah, multi-melta, sure, it's a close-range weapon. Why not a heavy flamethrower on top? And then I remembered why
You couldn't shoot it.
you could not shoot it, because gather round younglings for Sterling's old edition time.
Oh, also, another thing that I just want to point out.
Yeah,
The Crusader, which is lighter, is slower.
but it has the same engine. It's not drawing power to
No,
power
it's-
less guns.
it's slower.
Okay, cool.
So the normal one is 55. This one's 50. It's slower.
Why is it slower?
Yeah, it's just slower.
There's no power drain from las cannon batteries and capacitors on this thing.
Nope,
Like,
slower.
oh well. Anyways, regardless. Also, the Crusader has a shield for the bolters. Like,
At least it's something.
at least it's something. Anyways,
I'm still wondering how you get out and reload them. I think it's supposed to have auto loaders on the side.
Yeah, but how? Why? So are they belt-fed bolters?
I think so.
So why aren't they just heavy bolters?
I don't know.
Anyways, so in old editions, you couldn't fire the flamethrower for 2 reasons. One was it wasted you shooting your primary gun because...
Yep,
Back
it's a
in the-
strength 5 weapon, and you can only fire defensive weapons if you didn't move.
Yep, so you have this template. What was it? 8 1/4 inch template.
No, it's just 8 inches.
Was it just 8 inches?
Yeah, it's 8 exact inches, and that's where we got the 8-inch flamethrower from.
You know, I may be thinking of the Infinity template because it's slightly longer. Anyways, you could not place the template in any way that it would cover your own models.
Yep. Which also meant the ball predator couldn't fire.
Yeah, the ball predator couldn't fire it until the edition updated, and they're like, okay, fine, you can shoot them and, you know, cover off your own thing. That's where the torrent rule came from, where you could fire off of your turret somewhere. But yeah, you couldn't use the heavy flamethrower variants on some of the other like Land Raiders.
So then we
the
have a green
Crusader.
Land Raider. Then we put the green Land Raider on fire.
English is hard, all right.
English is hard.
It is.
So then the next one we get is the Land Raider Helios, which is probably the best design for this thing.
I was actually gonna say, like, I really like the Helios because it is the epitome of that bunker, and it's a support thing. Granted, it is a Red Scorpion.
Yeah, and we have
thing,
our
so
problems with the Red Scorpions.
Our own issues with that, but
And we're not going to get into it, and we don't want any comments about it asking. If you want to know, just message me.
join the Discord.
So, what's bad about this thing, and is just going to overall be bad about this thing, is the Helios launcher falls under the same things that we have a problem with the Whirlwind launchers.
Yeah.
Which is the fact that they can't hit anything.
The best part is the Helios, even in its own lore, is meant to be used alongside whirlwinds. So, so it's that whole you're throwing good money after bad. Like, oh yeah, we're just going to commit to the strategy that we know doesn't work.
Yeah. Also, my favorite thing is they didn't really glue this one down.
Yeah, there used to be some really nasty seams on some of these older Land Raider kits. Mm-hmm. All right.
So here's the Land Raider Helios' specs, and for some reason the Helios, which has more weapons, is faster than the Crusader.
Yep.
They put the Helios, the Whirlwind missile pod, on the wrong turret in this one.
Yeah, I noticed that. Like, it's up
Yeah.
on the front instead of on the back.
Yeah. And so are the guns. They're up front. But then they have this one where the guns are up front. And yeah, they don't make any sense. And what? This thing has unlimited power from 24 missiles. That's actually not bad.
Yeah, I mean...
6 at a time.
Which means you have to
24,
reload
4
every
times.
6 shots, so you've got
4 shots.
4 shots?
Yeah.
Like, four salvos, I guess is the correct term. But yeah, it's...
And is there anything special about this one, about it, like having tracking torpedoes or something stupid? Because they love saying dumb stuff about it.
Was it... Oh yeah, it can't carry as many Marines because it's carrying extra missiles.
So it
That
only
was-
carries 6.
Only carry 6. Let's see. You can't use a pintle-bound weapon with it.
It quite literally says, for more information on the weapon system, look at the
See
Whirlwind.
the Whirlwind section.
So, see our Whirlwind video. Because they said it, we can say it.
Yep.
The Blood Angels one. Then I have a
by
piece
the
of
way,
cardboard in here.
Like, this picture.
Is so awesome.
It's such a good picture. Like, Forge World, you take some awesome pictures every once in a while, but that Helios is also super dead. Like,
Oh god, yes.
those are, what, I see 1, 2, 3 Gauss pylons.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's dead. It's super dead.
Yeah.
And then those can just teleport away.
So then we have the Prometheus, which actually has heavy bolters on the side.
Yes, it does.
Which for some reason,
belt-fed heavy bolters, too.
yeah.
So you don't have to get out to reload it. It doesn't take power away from charging, like, your engines or anything like that.
Now, is this vehicle going to be faster?
No, it's not. Because it's a
No, it's the same
salamander
speed.
thing. Yeah. Which, like, alright, so this is the Salamander's direct version, like, yeah, this is the one that we use for everything. It's like, okay, cool. Where's the flamethrower on it if it's a Salamander, like, unique variant
Or the
initially?
multi-meltas?
Or the multi-meltas? Or why is it not just flat out better? Because Salamanders are supposed to be these amazing craftsmen. Like, it actually loses the ability to have, like, a hull-mounted forward-facing weapon.
Yep, it does have 4 twin-linked heavy bolters, which is pretty good.
Yeah, no, it's pretty
but it has, it only has 4,800 rounds.
Yeah,
And heavy bolters can go fully auto.
yeah. But now, with the update to heavy bolters,
Yeah, this tank is actually good.
yeah, the Prometheus is real nutty now that's, flat 2 damage.
Yeah. It's actually funny how good it is.
Yeah, because that's... How many shots is that? That's
4
That's
times
6
2,
each? So 24 shots?
Yeah, 24 shots.
24 heavy bolter shots on a Land Rare may not be bad in the new edition for 40k.
Also, Avenging Suns chapter, Howling Griffins, a Prometheus
that,
of the Dark Angel
Angels?
chapter. My favorite thing is they don't say what Dark Angel chapter.
Maybe it's just the Dark Angels. Yeah.
Could be. And yeah, we get to see this picture where, again, they can't line up the Land Raider too well. And the other one is a stock image of a Land Raider that isn't part of the original image.
Yep.
It's just Photoshopped there. I always thought that was funny.
There are some good ones and there are some bad ones.
So, do you think an Abrams can take a Land Raider?
Yeah, I think so, honestly. An Abrams can bring, like, an ITAS system. An Abrams has depleted uranium rounds that get, like, what is it, like 540 millimeters of penetration on rolled homogeneous steel, which canonically we now know is more than what a Land Raider comes stock with.
Yep.
Abrams is faster, it's lower. Like, I think that if you took something like the Mark V land ships and just updated the technology, it still would not be good. Because the Mark V
Even
land
if you put a
ships,
speed of light gun that shoots a sun at something?
I still don't think it's good, because then that means a speed of light gun that shoots a sun at something is something that exists in my reality, and I'm just going to have that be... like,
on your tank instead.
yeah, I'll just put that on a faster, smaller chassis. Like, I'll put that on a buggy, you know, and just, like, put batteries on the back. I will do what, like, insurgents around the world have done for decades, and I will buy a bunch of old Toyota/Datsun trucks. And I will just hot weld weapon systems into the back and just be a nuisance. Like,
The worst part is that actually works.
yeah, it does work. Like, I don't know. Land Raiders are weird.
On a score of 10, my score for a Land Raider is a 2.
I was gonna say 2 as well.
They're,
Like,
if they hit with their las cannons, they're absolutely devastating. They're
Sure.
100% like amazing with their las cannons, assuming that they can actually target something, track it, and hit it, which isn't
and
that
more than
hard.
likely also sneak up on it, that's the hard part.
Yeah, this thing is good at fighting orcs. It's good in its universe.
Yes, in its universe where everyone is holding this up as the pinnacle of military technology. Or you have the Eldar, which there's not enough of them left to field their amazing flying tanks that can one-shot, like, almost anything. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's...
Or the Tau. Although we're going to get to the Tau.
We're going to get to the Tau.
The Tower,
and the Taurus,
oof.
but, yeah. And eventually we'll get to the Tyranids and just the idea of, like, oh, yeah, no, they can shrug off las cannon hits because, you know...
Bioelectric auras.
Bioelectric auras. It's like, okay, so what...
Yeah.
And also, Titans exist in your universe if you're in the 41st millennium, so, like...
The Land Raider barely fits in its own setting.
Yeah, is it iconic? Yeah. Like, cool factor for me, a Land Raider easily gets like a 6 or a 7.
Funny enough, in 9th edition, they're actually pretty decent.
That doesn't surprise me. Like, Land Raiders always go through this weird phase where they are the golden standard of a vehicle at the start of a new edition.
Mm-hmm.
And then...
It's like Gladiator Beast for Yu-Gi-Oh! Every new rotation is always that Gladiator Beast player.
There's always somebody who's like, I'm good again. It's red deck wins for those Magic players.
Yep.
It's like, yeah, you're real amazing until everyone else catches up.
So yeah, Land Raider, possibly the worst tank in the Imperium.
It is definitely up there. Like,
I can't think of a worse tank.
no, because the Lehman Russ at least has, like, the ability to, with a turret, fight things. Like, a Lehman Russ can actually fire behind it if it needs to make a retreat. It has a big gun, and it still has a pintle mount, and it still has sponsons, and... yeah, this is like, oh yeah, no, it has extra las cannons. Cool, they're 2 on each side. Like, for the longest time, the Land Raider, you just didn't bring it if you played Space Marines in some of the older editions, because of the way that you had to fire everything at one target, and your guns had to be able to physically see.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
So, with that all said, Land Raider is garbage.
Yeah.
And I want to thank Sterling for joining me once again for another Everything Wrong With.
Always happy.
And next week, we're going to be doing the Lands Speeder.
The Lands Speeder.
And we're going to be...
S.
Okay, so I'm curious about this. It is just the Land Speeder. Okay.
I was right.
And then it's the...
Land Speeder.
Tornado. That's the one we forgot.
Oh, that's right. The one with the heavy flamethrower on it.
Yeah,
That's
the tornado,
right.
the typhoon, and now we have the new ones. The hammer, the...
Sky Strike?
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that.
But next time we'll be going over the land speeder, which in my opinion might be surprising to people because I think it's good.
Yeah, I will reserve my judgment for later because that makes good content.
Yes, it does. As always, I'm NornQueenAlexis. I want to thank everybody for joining me today. Check out all the links in the description. Follow me on Patreon. Patreon supports the channel. As always, love you guys. Bye.